For today's episode of Modern Warfare 2019 Loadouts, we're going to be doing the Ghost Frontline P90. Before we begin, I would like to give thanks to Droid15243Z, who told me to do the P90 after I did the MP7, and I'm just getting to it. As you can see, the comment's over a month old. But we're going to get right into it. So, the first thing we're going to be making a loadout of is her basic art, which is right here. So, I'm going to go into the gunsmith and make it in time. I do have a preset for it, but I would prefer to show you where to select the attachments. And so the Soul Zero NVG Enhanced is her optic, or at least the closest one I can get to it in this game. The laser looks like a flashlight in her art. So we're going to be having to go for the 1 milliwatt laser because it's the biggest one there. Outside of that, she has no other attachments, so we can just put sleight of hand there as a freebie because it does not affect the aesthetics of the gun. We're going to be setting it to preview, and then we're going to pull up the image so you can compare how it looks. As you can see, the flashlight does protrude past the little like Picatinny rail shroud, and while the optic isn't identical, they both look like really crushed cans. And so overall, I consider this pretty acceptable in terms of the way the gun looks. Now, there's actually something else P90 has. She has a Christmas skin, and it's right here. And as you can see, the P90, the only difference is it just has an EOTech on it. So I can actually make it right now really fast because it's a single attachment gun. Bam. That is it. And let's compare it right here. Just like that. So, when it comes to the perks and other weapons that the class uses, P90's ability in-game is to create these holographic dummies of herself. Now, the main issue with that is you can't do that in Modern Warfare, but there is something I can sort of replicate. Nothing to do with perks, lethal, or tactical though. As you can see, these are all just things I personally prefer. But there is a way we can do that. So if we go to Killstreak Select, we can put on Counter UAV. And Counter UAV doesn't create fake minimap dots. But in a way, it's like sort of distracting the enemies. Sort of similar to hologram, I suppose. So if you really wanted to do it, you can use the Counter UAV. But other than that, that should be it for the P90. So we're going to be getting into a game of the Mazda here. It looks like it's in progress halfway through, but that should be plenty enough time to showcase this setup. So the P90 itself actually has low recoil, and that helps out in long range. So as you can see, hold on, I can't exactly fight against that. Okay, so first, the P90 has very low recoil control, very high recoil control and very high recoil stabilization. So from this distance, I can keep it pretty straight on. Though, of course, it doesn't hurt to have an extra foregrip, which you cannot put on this gun. So the gun itself is mainly steady, and because this optic is magnified and has thermals, if the enemy is using cold-blooded, you're going to have issues seeing them. As an SMG, the P90 is tied for second fastest ADS time of all the SMGs in the game. I think it's tied with the MP7 and the MP5, and the only one faster than it is actually the Uzi. So overall, you're going to be moving fast, sprinting out fast, and aiming down sight fast, even with this loadout. Nothing about it makes it inherently slow. Because it's thermal, you can actually aim down long sight lines, and it'll be really easy to find people who aren't using cold-blooded. So as to use this setup, well, even though this isn't a long-range SMG, it does have low enough recoil that you can use it long range. Because of the 1 milliwatt laser, you can also hip fire up close and get really good accuracy when doing it. Unfortunately, the weakness of this weapon at long range comes from the fact that other long range guns such as marksman rifles exist. So even though you may be able to get off the first few shots, if they run a combination of focus, you will be unable to flinch them enough to get their shot off target. However, because of the sprint out time, if you start reloading like that, you should be able to quickly get back on target if you run into somebody. One of the downsides to the P90 is its 5.7 ammunition. The reason it's a downside is no other weapon in the game shares it, which means that you're going to be running into ammunition constraints. So, if you don't want to use sleight of hand, you could just use fully loaded. Because of its 50 round magazine capacity, you can actually spray down quite a few enemies instead of just one. It has a relatively fast time to kill as well, which means it's a very competitive SMG. This SMG is good. Once again, I can show you the hip fire on this weapon is great. I'm gonna go jump down here, kill a few. The speed reload is good. Although, of course, it's not an infinite magazine. It's also a relatively low damage SMG, so despite the large magazine capacity, you are going to have to reload often after 2 or 3 kills. However, that is a bit better than a 30-round magazine from an assault rifle, typically. Yeah, the thermal side does help. Not many people run cold-blooded, because EOD is also in that same perk slot. So as you can see, it's really easy to pick them out. So a lot of character skins in this game have high tier camos, and those camos work just like they do in real life, aka you can't actually see them. They're doing their job. So like if you see a person wearing multicam, you're wrong because you can't see multicam. That's a joke, by the way. You can see multicam. Anyway, there's some dude coming up here. So you can see my pistol's 9mm. I can't do anything about that. Running fully loaded on your pistol, if they share the same ammo with your SMG, actually allows you to... Running the same ammo with your pistol and SMG causes them to have the same ammo pool. And this comes back to what I said about the 5.7. The 5.7 ammunition, it sort of limits your secondary things, because before, with other SMGs like the AUG or the Uzi, if you can just run a M19 with fully loaded, you'll be set. You can't do that with the P90 though. So there's this very useful website called True Game Data. He's also a YouTube channel, and he has a comparison tool to showcase what differences what happens to the gun stats should you equip certain attachments. So we're gonna use this to showcase the P90, of course. And so here are the base stats. As you can see, it's very fast ADS. It's a fast gun in general. Now, of course, the first attachment would be the OPTIC, which would be the Solar Zero, a night vision goggle enhanced thermal. Second one would be the laser, 1mW, and the perk, which is just sleight of hand. So this one's pretty simple to see. Our aim down sight time increases by a decent chunk. That is like a good, well, it's 15 milliseconds, right? Now, if you're playing on console, this translates to, what is 17? It translates to about 3 frames of aim down sight time increase. However, there's another thing this OPTIC does, which I did not know. It actually decreases your vertical recoil. So think of it like a sort of compensator. The 1mW laser's only difference is that it makes your hip fire better by 36%, which is pretty decent, and sleight of hand removes about 0.6 seconds off your reload time. So overall, this is nice. I would have, of course, we're only using 3 out of 5 attachment slots, so I would have put a stipple grip tape on there. As you can see, stipple grip tape increases sprint out times even more, and actually decreases your ADS time. But overall, I would have just put some attachments on there, like a compensator and a stipple grip tape, in order to make the recoil as low as it can be while you still move fast. But wait, there's more. There's another character in Ghost Frontline who also uses a P90, and it is not a skin of P90. It is Henrietta from the Gunslinger Girls collaboration. And we can actually see a bit of detail on her gun from her damage dart. So, without going to the weapon customization screen, I can tell you what's on there right now. She has the integrated ring sight, and she has the fly strap. Outside of that, nothing else. So it's also a 3 attachment setup. So let me go really recreate it in the gunsmith. So she doesn't have a laser on it. We're gonna put an FSS ring sight. Let's just go with the mode down one because it's a darker color. She also has the fly strap, and her configuration uses 2 straps, so it looks like default. And we can also slap sleight of hand on there because it's a freebie. And this is what Henrietta's P90 looks like in game. We'll compare it to the actual piece of art, which I probably need to go move so you can see it. There you go. It looks similar enough. The only difference is her P90 is black in the main body and the one in the game is gray, but there's not much you can do against that. So we're jumping into a fresh match here on Hovek Sawmill with Henrietta's P90. And so let's talk about the main differences between this P90 and P90's P90, which is a funny thing to say. So, number 1, the OPTIC is not magnified. Now you may be wondering, does that mean it's better at closer range? Yes, but also because of the fly strap. You can see the little strap there is on the P90. Now, what those do is that they massively increase your sprint out, massively decrease your sprint out time, which means the time it takes to get out from sprint into shooter mode is very low. And the other thing it adds is aim walking movement speed. So you may be wondering what that means. So when you aim down sight and you move, you're going to actually move faster than without the attachment. So this SMG is very specialized towards close quarters because it's an unmagnified optic, and it's also very mobile because of the fly strap. So for this weapon, I also gave a sleight of hand because that's also a freebie, and because of the way I set up this weapon, it's very good for a run and gun. You have to get in there fast, and you get to reload fast, so you can jump in and out of engagements relatively quickly. However, it is a lot weaker at range than P90's P90 because there is no thermal sight and there is no magnified optic. So when I see people from far away, you're going to actually have to use your eyes and differentiate the colors yourself. So you can see I'm not having much success because on a map like Hovek Sawmill, there are power positions away from the middle of the map, which is where this P90 would find most engagements. So people are dying on the right side over here, so I'm going to aim down sight, and there's one. You want to dive to a Claymore. This is Modern Warfare 2019 after all. So going around here, normally I would do it if I had an assault rifle. I don't have an assault rifle, so it would be really dumb. As you can see though, the speed by which this P90 fires its rounds means you can swiftly track on target. So if you're shooting, you can transition like that really fast. And the abundance of ammo it comes with is pretty good too. Did I kill him with the grenade? I don't know what. Oh shit! Did he pick up my grenade and throw it back at me? No, he threw another grenade. So yeah, when it comes to field upgrades, the munitions box works well with the P90 because, like I said earlier in the P90 segment, this thing does not have another gun with the same ammo type. So unless someone else is using a P90, you won't be able to pick up any ammo. In order to increase its close range capability, I also gave it quick fix. So whenever you kill an enemy, you're actually going to heal. So there's no need for stims as long as you kill enemies. Now, contrary to what I just showed you, no, P90 does not have frag grenades, but I'm also playing a game, so I wanted to win. So this is a much more simple loadout, simply because it plays to the P90's strengths of sprinting out fast, getting in and out fast, shooting lots of bullets at enemies. It also has low recoil, so stuff like that is pretty easy to do. Yeah, because of its insane sprint out speed, I can sort of sprint wherever I want. As you can see, I opened fire on him first. The only issue is my accuracy is garbage for some reason, so I wasn't able to land a killing shot. Now, as for VTOLs, vehicle destruction, for the most part, this gun does pretty well against it because of its high magazine capacity. That's why LMGs do so well against VTOLs and other supply equipment, because they'll be able to unload a lot of shots before the pilot AI takes notice of your character and blasts you to Kingdom Come. There's someone there, isn't there? So we can also use Dead Silence, which... Oh shit, I'm almost... if I shot the Claymore, he would have died! Why am I so bad? Anyway, like I was saying, you can also use Dead Silence to complement the aggressive playstyle that this build naturally encourages. As for aiming stability, it's pretty good. I mean, there's a bit of wobble, but at the same time, you can always just adjust where your bullets are going. So, contrary to the last game, this one's not going so well to showcase the strengths of the P90 because the enemy's playing in a way that makes it difficult for the P90 to showcase its strengths. Which is to say, they're playing very defensively. As you can see, I'm not getting any assist for some reason. I guess I'm just good at finishing them off. Oh yeah, well, let's talk about this though. As for my opinion on the FSS ring sight, it's cool. I like it. I would not run it over something like the GI Mini Reflex or the Solar Zero. Like, you know, the small ones. Like, there's the Aimpoint Micro, there's the GI Mini Reflex, there's the other one by Solar Zero, which is sort of cool, but also it just feels like a GI Mini Reflex reskin. It's like that. So the reason why I wouldn't use this is because you can see the shroud of this optic is really big. It's not just that there's a thin metal outline followed by the dot in the middle. There's a relatively thick polymer construction around it, which makes it difficult to see the peripheral vision around your enemy. Does it look cool? Yes. And I'm not sure what the video game stats of this one are, but it may reduce your aim down sight time by less than the other optics do, which would give it a reason to exist. The game's ending here, so one last, and we're going to shoot it. So back to true game data, we're also going to be looking at Henrietta's SMG, which once again is still a P90. So the optic itself actually has a large effect on the aim down sight time. So the FSS ring sight, like I suspected, has nothing to your aim down sight time, only 4 milliseconds, which is that is extremely small. You shouldn't even worry about it. So, but the important thing to look here is actually the fly strap and what it does. So we'll showcase you on the final thing, but we're just going to go over here. No more attachments. So our aim down sight time is 196 milliseconds, and when you add on the FSS ring sight, even though it says +4, it's apparently 197 milliseconds. So significantly faster aiming than the P90. And because of the fly strap, your sprint out time decreases. So you can get in and out of engagements faster, mostly because you can sprint. You can get out of your sprint into shooting stance faster. And your aim down sight movement speed increases by only 9%, so it's not that noticeable, but strafing faster is always a good thing. So as you can see, it's essentially the base P90, but faster, which is actually a pretty good build. Now, if you want to ask what I would put onto it, because it's so fast, I would actually put on something like I would put on one of the barrel attachments, not the big one, and then I would probably attach a 1 milliwatt laser just so I can get better hip fire out of it. And if you do that, your aim down sight time does increase by about 20 milliseconds. However, you also get significantly more bullet velocity and 22% more range, which I think is good, and your hip fire goes down by 36%.